Hello Key Stage 2, this is the third video of Key Stage 2 Story Time with Mrs Hayes, and we are going to be looking at Chapter 4 today of How to Not Go to School. And I like this chapter. This chapter is probably one of my favourite chapters in the book because it's all about how to teach yourself better than a teacher would teach you. Bit of a mouthful there, but it's all about trying to learn how to be learning from home, really. So I hope you look forward to it. I hope you enjoy it. And it's quite a short one this week. Chapter 4, How to teach yourself better than a teacher could teach yourself. Tuesday the 31st of March 2020. Today I've been thinking about the number 2. That sounds kind of babyish, doesn't it? Let me put it another way. Today I've been investigating the properties of the number commonly referred to as 2. It all started when I was feeding my animals. Dogs have 2 eyes and 2 ears. Goats have 2 horns. Even Bo has 2 arms and 2 legs and 2 kind of snotty nostrils. And that got me thinking about all the 2s that animals have. Birds have 2 wings and 2 feet. Dolphins have 2 flippers. Crabs have 2 claws. And Stichosaurus, the stick insect, has 2 antennae. But some things don't come in 2s. Dogs have 4 legs, beetles have 6 legs, octopuses have 8 tentacles, and centipedes have 100 legs, millipedes have 1,000 legs. Some ladybirds have 6 spots, and some have 8 spots. Bo has 10 fingers and 10 toes. Then I started looking at the plants in my garden. The daffodils had 5 petals. One of the daisies I looked at had 35 petals and another one had 42 petals. The dandelions all had different numbers of leaves. I tried counting the branches on the tree, but I got confused about what counts as a branch and what's just part of another branch. At lunch I counted 13 seeds in my apple. And then I counted the seeds in Bo's apple to make sure he only had 10 seeds. Have you noticed a pattern? Animals have even numbers of body parts, but plants can have odd or even. The only exception is the number 1. Monkeys only have 1 tail, and you've only got 1 head. I hope. I decided to do some research on the enchanted tablet. It turns out that almost all animals are bilaterally symmetrical. That means you could cut them in half down the middle, and they'd have the same number of legs, fingers, tentacles, snotty nostrils on each side. But plants are mostly radially symmetrical, which means you can spin them around and around and they still look pretty much the same. Imagine spinning a daisy flower around and around. So plants could have odd or even numbers of petals, leaves, branches or seeds. I was very busy with my discovery, so I went to go and tell Bo, but he wasn't very interested in the number of parts that animals and plants have. When he grows up, he wants to be a space paleontologist. He plans to go to the moon and dig up dinosaur bones. I tried explaining that there aren't any dinosaur bones on the moon, but Mum says it's okay because it keeps him busy learning lots of new things about dinosaurs and lots of things about space. Yesterday he told me the biggest plant in our solar system is Jupiter, which I thought was quite a mean thing to say until I realised what he meant was the biggest planet in our solar system is Jupiter. Today he was focusing really hard on learning how to spell pterodactyl, which is pretty ambitious because sometimes he struggles to spell bow. Mum says that if you don't go to school, then you need to have motivation. At school, you have teachers prowling around, making sure you do all your work and hitting you with canes or locking you in the chokey if you don't follow the rules. Do they still do that? I read Matilda and Danny the Champion of the World, and that sort of thing happened all the time at their schools. My motivation is curiosity and finding things out. Bo's is dreaming of being a space paleontologist. Mum's motivation is that she loves to master learning how to do things. One week last winter, she spent every night practicing juggling with oranges, and now she can juggle any fruit she likes, even pineapples. Another time she decided she wanted to learn calligraphy, the really fancy curly writing. So she spent ages practicing, and now her writing is so curly that no one can read it. Mum was more impressed than Bo by my discovery about symmetry in animals and plants, especially because we had only learnt about different types of symmetry a couple of weeks ago. Then she got out the B-bomb. That stands for Big Book of Maths. It's an absolutely enormous book, and we call it B-bomb because that's the sound it makes when you drop it on the kitchen table. I sort of wish I could just spend all my time investigating things, but it's kind of useful learning stuff from the B-bomb. Like last week, we learnt all about different types of symmetry, and that was helpful in my animal and plant parts discovery today. After maths, I did some writing, this book, and Mum told me to write down some questions about motivation and learning things at home. So here they are. Parsley had some great questions about motivation. What's your motivation? Are there any other types of motivation? Should you only have one motivation, or can you have different ones? What else do you need to help you learn at home? We're so far into our lockdown and not being in school, and although some of you in year 6 are able to be in school, there's an awful lot of you who are still working from home. And it's now more than ever that I think motivation is really important. So have a think about what you can do to stay motivated at home. Hang in there and think about that word perseverance.